Hello and welcome to this week's PS4 O'Clock, where I'll be talking to Joel about rumours of GTA 5 on PS4 and recent comparison between PS4 and Xbox One. Hello everyone, it's Leon here and I am with Joel.
Hi.
And this week on PS4 O'Clock we're looking at a few things, sort of rounding up some news, the first of which is GTA 5 on PS4.
Rumour alert.
Rumour alert, yes, which a lot of people have been asking about. There's still a few people, I've heard sort of saying they're waiting to see if it's coming out in current gen. I think it's going to be, but obviously Rockstar don't want to dampen their kind of current gen sales at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's also, you know, in the middle of the hype and everyone being excitedly buying a game, you don't want to suddenly say, I'll be a bit better in like 9 months' time or something like that. I think it's coming though. I'd be astonished if in, I don't know, May next year, April, May, there's not a next gen version. Yeah,
and there's some quite strong pointers coming. The most recently is that Amazon Germany have listed it on both PS4 and Xbox One, and that listing was still live last time I checked. But also, since the game's come out, people have gone through the code looking for sort of any clues in
people have got way too much time on their hands.
Well, there's people like doing that stuff. It's like someone basically has found reference to Orbis, which is the PS4 operating system, as well as PC and Xbox One in this source code. And what they found it in is a config file. And what normally happens is that when games make, or when they make various versions of a game for different formats, rather than making lots of separate versions, they have a config file that says this is this version, this is that version. And they found reference to PS4. And there's sort of previous history for it in the past. Games like Borderlands, Unreal Tournament 3, Star Wars, Battlefront 2 have had various versions of formats, I should say, in their code.
Right.
So yeah, they build the game around one general lump of code and then tweak it to suit different platforms.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's imminent, but I'd be surprised if it's not coming eventually. And given how good the game is and looks and plays on PS3, I can only imagine what it'd be like on PS4. I mean, it's one of the best looking games on the platform already, so it'd be amazing to see it on next gen.
Yeah, and what's interesting as well is with the source code that's been found is that Rockstar lawyers have been sort of going up to websites and saying, can you take this down please?
Right.
Which immediately makes it sound even more
I mean, you'd have to think, why is it in there if it's not coming? And it would make sense, you know, Rockstar, they know what they're doing, and you know, by the time the buzz has died down about this and GTA Online, which I think is going to last a fair while, they're going to want to come up with another new big hit of something, which is obviously not going to be a new game because it takes them a long time to make their game. So this is kind of the perfect stopgap between this and whatever they're making next.
And I mean, it looks incredible on PS3 anyway, so God only knows how it's going to look on PS4.
I can't wait, and I already kind of want to replay it, but I'm thinking if I'm going to do it, I might as well wait and replay it on PS4 because that would be quite the experience.
And there is another mention, actually, I should say. Back in August, Sony's UK Twitter feed answered a guy called Mr. Xmas123, and they said GTA 5 is going to be amazing, especially on the PS4. What other games are you looking forward to playing? And then a little while later they went, apologies for the typo about GTA 4. It's due for release on PS3 on September the 17th.
I mean, that probably is a typo. Like,
but why would Sony, if the thing that I think is interesting with this, they go, especially on the PS4, why would they pick out one format when they...
Because they're Sony?
But in theory, they
probably wanted to say PS3.
But why would? But they don't like acknowledging other formats. That's the thing. They wouldn't say our version is the best, or as far as they're concerned, their version is the only one that exists.
I suppose so, but I guess people knew that the PlayStation was like the lead development platform, so maybe they were referencing that. I don't know. It's slightly tenuous, but you add it all together, and it makes a fairly compelling case that it's coming, and we can only hope it is, because it would be quite the experience. And I mean, there's going to be a lot of good next gen games out between now and whenever GTA 5, if and when it does come out on PS4, but you've got to think it's going to be difficult for anything to compete with that when it finally does drop.
So yeah, do you know what we think? We definitely think it's coming, but obviously Rockstar want to maximise PS3 current gen sales and hopefully get a second kind of wind of cash when they kind of go, and now you can play it again, but slightly better.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay, well, moving on. I'm not normally one to sort of jump on kind of fanboy sort of flag waving, but there's been an interesting story that came out in Edge recently about PS4's power advantage and sort of what it's got under the hood compared to Xbox One. Now, what Edge said, is, from quoting sources, is that the PS4 memory reads on PS4, are 40 to 50% quicker than Xbox One, and its arithmetic logic unit is around 50% faster. So basically, what that means is it can
absolutely
it can get information from its memory quicker, and the arithmetic logic unit is so Wiki defines the arithmetic logic unit as shut up. It's one of the many components within a computer processor that performs mathematical, logical, and decision operations in a computer. It's the final processing performed by the processor. So it's basically the bit of the brain that at the end kind of makes all the decisions and sends out all the ones and zeros.
Right. Okay. So better is better, obviously.
Well, it's not quite so clear cut, because Digital Foundry did a comparison a little while back where they built a PS4 and an Xbox One sort of out of parts and made some fairly informed...
Which isn't the most reliable of ways of doing things, because they're not like closed systems and stuff like that, like the consoles are going to be. But it's a decent guess, I suppose.
They made some clear sort of some intelligent decisions about sort of how to best mirror the two systems, and did say, like you say, that it's not the best example or the best way of doing it, but it's a good indication of how the systems will work. And they decided that while the PS4 is more powerful, they said the evidence suggests quality tweaks and resolution changes could help produce frame rates, comparable frame rates on both platforms. One thing they pointed out was that PS4's got a 256-bit bus, which is how it basically the road the information.
Wait for a bus and then 256 bits come along at once. Yeah,
it's basically the sort of the road the information sort of moves down, so it can move more information quicker. The Xbox has got a thing called ESRAM or SRAM, and it's more unknown. One of the things that Edge said that was that the Xbox's ESRAM, SRAM, I'm not sure how to pronounce it actually, is weaker and it's a pain in the ass, is what one person apparently said.
Yeah, see, that's the big thing for me, is like these differences in flops and ALUs and frames and stuff. I mean, frame rates do make a bit of a difference, but only when it's a significant jump. Like, 6 or 7 frames a second isn't going to make a huge difference. No. But if developers are finding one a lot easier to use than the other, now that is going to be a significant difference.
And that's exactly what happened with PS3.
Exactly, and we know what the result of that is with things like Skyrim. So that could potentially be a big deal, both short and long term. If developers find the Xbox hardware more difficult to program for, then we're going to get things like substandard ports on the Xbox potentially, or developers going, well, if I'm going to make an exclusive for one of the consoles, I maybe want to do it on the one that I get on with the hardware better. So I think that, like you say, I'm not like a fanboy of one or the other, but that would be more worrying for me if I was an Xbox person than the slight, the number crunching. Essentially, the attitude of the developers is something that I think could be important.
And this is one of the issues that Edge raised, was this idea of kind of politics coming into play, where publishers not wanting to release different level quality versions and sort of actually hamstringing one or the other to which again we saw on PS4. You saw Xbox versions of PS3 versions of Xbox games that clearly were locked off at the Xbox level.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't want to jump on the fanboy bandwagon, but it's nice to have the shoe on the other foot for a change. We've now got the hardware that the developers like and is kind of more easy to work with than this kind of A, weaker, and B, slightly more bespoke or kind of confusing technology, which isn't, like I say, it probably ultimately isn't going to make a huge amount of difference, but if you wanted to be on one side or the other, it seems like the PS4 hardware side is the one to be on.
I mean, most of the people involved in this story have been saying that it's not as clear-cut as simply just crunching numbers.
No.
But what is interesting is that it does seem to be as clear-cut as crunching numbers, because the Edge guy, or the Edge source, said that if they took... Well, the example they were given was they took a platform-agnostic development build, so a lump of code that isn't tailored to suit either platform, and it would run at 30 frames per second at 1920 by 1080.
So full HD.
On PS4, yeah. Whereas on Xbox, it would run around about 20-something frames at 16 times 900, 1600 times 900.
Yeah, that makes quite a big difference, to be honest.
And also with Digital Foundry, the stuff they were running, so they had... a PC which was an HD 780 50 Radeon graphics card. I don't understand half this stuff.
Something that was like an Xbox and one that was like a PS4, essentially.
Yes, So and what they found was that, as a rule, they were getting 20 to 30% performance increases. So something like Bioshock. Let's go. Something like Bioshock Infinite, would be running at about 38 frames at full settings on the PS4 analog.
Yeah.
But 20 frame.
31 frames.
Yes.
On the Xbox One. Yeah, and we've got a few things here, like Tomb Raider was running at 56.8 on Xbox One and 69.6 on PS4. So it's, you know, they're mainly a sort of 20 to 25% increase on the PS4 spec, which is good. I mean, again, it's a good thing if you're in PS4 land.
Yeah, but I mean, as people have said, it is because they're closed systems. The final build is yet to be proven.
Exactly. The proof will be once the machines are actually in the wild, and I have absolutely no doubt that as soon as they are in the wild, there'll be countless benchmark tests and comparisons. And so if you really do want to wait and find out, then that's probably the thing to do. But at the moment, it looks like, as I say, in terms of like the hardware, PS4's got a slight advantage, and certainly in terms of developers liking the hardware more, that seems to be the way it's going, which I think for me would be probably more significant in the long run.
Yeah, and that ease of development is the thing that held PS3 back in the past. And
yeah, and if you look at
hit it right on the head.
Yeah, if you look at how many, especially like indie developers, have signed up to do things either on PS4 exclusively or timed exclusive and that kind of stuff, it tells you that even for people who don't have, you know, huge teams and massive studios behind them, they can get to grips with the hardware really easily. So that again is going to increase the amount of different kind of games and genres and the level of creativity we see. So it's all good, basically.
Yeah, and we'll let the final word actually go to Microsoft, who responded to Kotaku when they ran a story on this sort of power difference. And they said 10 years ago you could argue that a console's power was summed up in terms of a few of its specs. But Xbox One is designed as a powerful machine to deliver the best blockbuster games today and for the next decade. Xbox One architecture is much more complex than any single figure can convey. It was designed with balanced performance in mind, and we think the games we continue to show running on near-final hardware demonstrate that performance. In the end, we'll let the consoles and their games speak for themselves. Which will be interesting to see how that
sounds
pans
about
out.
right, yeah.
Yep. Cool. Okay, well there you go, guys. Any questions or anything, leave a comment, and we shall see you next week.
Sweet.